Welcome to Work is Good, a CSM podcast. My name is Landon Buteau, and I host the show with my dad, Chris Buteau, the owner and president at CSM. Today's episode is a conversation I had with my dad about time blocking, which is a recent habit he's taken up of just scheduling things onto his regular daily schedule and making sure they get done by actually putting them on his calendar and blocking off time for them specifically. It's something he's taken up recently and seen a ton of success in and actually been able to grow his business a lot because of it. And he gives a few recommendations for anyone interested in taking up a similar habit. And before we get into the conversation, just a quick reminder that if you are a listener, we really appreciate you and would love the chance to do business with you whenever you have any mortgage needs in Washington or Idaho. Please reach out to us using the link in the description or going to our website and finding out how to contact us there. And if you are a listener from anywhere else, we'd be happy to connect you with some professionals that we trust in other states. Thanks for listening, and please enjoy this episode. All right, Dad, we are talking about time blocking this week, hearing a little bit about your experience with that because you've made some efforts to focus on that recently, so I wanted to hear how that's been and what motivated that. So you want to just introduce kind of how that started?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, this is not a novel concept. This has been around for a very long time. Yes, the idea of basically taking your calendar and blocking out segments that are regular and consistent for activities that you want to be regular and consistent in performing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's not going to apply to someone who's in a manufacturing assembly line job because that's already all laid out for you. You go to a certain station and things are going to come by you and you're going to have to do those things. And That's true of a lot of different types of work, not just manufacturing. But it's it's really for anyone who's responsible for their own schedule essentially, and you can use it for coaching others as well. But for salespeople especially, we have really every week you can approach it like a blank canvas, and a lot of times for most of my career that's kind of what I did. I arrive at Monday and go, okay, what do I do? And I have a general idea.
Right.
But I don't really have a really carefully orchestrated plan, and that means that I'm just not being as efficient. So the idea of time blocking is you say, okay, I've got these certain activities that I want to accomplish every week, and I want to devote so much time to each of those activities, and so I'm just going to block out certain times of each day in order to do those things.
Yeah. What moved you to start doing that if you've been, for most of your career, just kind of more open about it?
Yeah, well, I definitely sort of candidly, the market slowed way down, and so whenever that happens, when the market slows way down, it really kind of forces you to rethink. Okay, what am I doing? What can I do better? And I also, so one of the things I did is I signed up for some coaching. Mortgage Marketing Animals, great company, great organization, and they build their whole system around what's called the Daily Success Plan. And a Daily Success Plan is just kind of a clever name for a calendar blocking system where you have certain activities that you're going to perform on certain days. And so I started to look at that and said, I need to I need to grow my business. I need to lean into this down year and work harder at prospecting and developing better business opportunities, more business opportunities. And I knew that I had to do something different than just sort of passively let my past clients call or every once in a while call on a realtor. And so that's what motivated that. Yeah.
I mean, it almost seems like if you really have no oversight, no accountability beyond yourself, it almost seems like you're just, which is not too far from what I'm doing right now, and I don't have a super consistent setup like that. But it almost seems like you just don't have the option to not have something like that, because you can have a checklist and the things you need to get done, but it's hard for that to incorporate everything. And so I guess a question I would have there, because I've tried a version of that a couple of times, And every time it's been, maybe it's just that I haven't held to it like I should. Right. But once I get there, it's like, no, this was I didn't think about this, or I scheduled too much or too specifically. So how have you evaluated whether you have the right schedule or whether you should keep it? How have you held yourself to it?
No, that's great. Yeah. So kind of part of what you're kind of speaking to is the difference between motivation and resolve. You can be motivated to do something, but motivation is kind of tied to your emotions, to your feelings. And you can get whipped up to do something. Motivation's a good thing and necessary, but motivation isn't always, motivation isn't constant. And so what you need to do is have a resolve, and you need to have a resolve. That's how it worked with me anyway, is I came to the position of saying that, you've heard me talk about this, the scripture a lot, Ecclesiastes 11:4-6. He who observes the clouds, he who observes the winds will not sow. He who regards the clouds will not reap. In the morning sow your seed, in the evening do not withhold your hand, if you do not know which will prosper. And I skipped some in between. But basically, there's that idea of we are commanded to do this. And so what I resolved was that this isn't really a choice. And so then you have to believe in the things that you've structured to do, right? And I think that's one of the big benefits of calendar blocking, is it forces you to step back and say, okay, what are the things that are really important for me to do, that I can resolve to do all the time, to be committed, never to miss doing these things. And so it really forces you, instead of just every week saying, I should probably do some sales calls, it forces you to step back and say, okay, what sort of sales calling should I do? How much time do I need to devote to that? How should I structure that? And so it really helps you to reflect upon what you're doing and then make the most of that, because you haven't just sort of showed up and started doing some things that have produced some success in the past, but aren't consistently being done in a manner to optimize that process in the future.
And this may vary by design, but how detailed have you gotten in terms of what you have scheduled? Is it just sales calls from this time to this time, or is it do you break it up into more specific tasks, and are those the only thing you're scheduling, or are you time blocking other things as well?
Those are all great questions, and one of the things I want to step back at and just saying that the idea is to get a little bit better every day. So like when I first approached this, the idea is, I've tried blocking before. I've never gotten to the point as far as I've gotten down at this time, and I've been doing it for a couple of months now and very consistently. And so first of all, I would just say that just start doing something. Start small and just set a goal for just improving a little bit every day.
Something that you're going to hold yourself to. Something small.
And so for me, it became because this is where coaching came in. I had a coaching organization that said, hey, these are things that work. We have this thing called the Daily Success Plan, and basically it's just 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Different emphases each day. So on Monday is you're focusing on realtors, developing relationships with realtors. So you have a group that you're prospecting. In my case, it's 30 realtors that I'm prospecting. I have 12 weeks that I'm calling them every week. Even if I just get their voicemail, or if I get them. And my goal is to set an appointment with them to then go deeper with them and then call for business. So it's, all of that is every week. On Mondays I'm calling 30 realtors, plus I'm calling any realtors that I have existing relationships with, and I'm asking for the business. And those that I don't have a relationship with, I'm asking if I can have a 15-20 minute coffee with them to just learn about what they're doing, how they're being so successful, because I've stratified this list. So it's very specific, very detailed. That's on Monday. On Tuesday I'm calling my existing pipeline. Any borrowers that I have in the process right now, I'm calling the borrower, the co-borrower, the listing agent, the selling agent, the escrow officer, and the transaction, updating everybody on what's going on. And I'm asking for the business. And that's one of the emphases of this process that caused me to step back and say, I have to ask for the business. I don't hardly ever do that. It's sort of inferred in many of my conversations, but I need to ask for it. And so that's one of the benefits of having this structure. It's not just about the calendar. It's about the thought that goes into what am I doing and what should I be doing and when should I be doing that.
Yeah.
And so, Tuesday's that, Wednesday, which happens to be today, is my database. I'm calling through my database over the course of a year 4 times. So that happens to be 2 letters a week. 2 letters of the alphabet every week. I've got my database stratified that way. So it's week number 8. It just comes up, all of those people. Yeah. And again, that's structure. That's because I put it on my calendar. Then I look at my calendar and I go, oh, I'm supposed to call all the J's, and K's this week. And so I better have a system in place where I can just pull them up, where I'm not kind of just going through my database trying to find all those at the moment. That's already there. The list is ready. It was ready yesterday. It was ready last week. And so it's forced me to go in and stratify and structure things in such a way that
preparation ahead of time makes a big difference.
I can go then and really lean into that time and make the most of that time and not have excuses.
Yeah. I going back to the habit conversation we had a little bit, we may have even talked about this in that conversation, but just remember a nugget that I took away from that book is that when you have a plan of what you're going to do and where you're going to do it and when you're going to do it, that takes care of the mental energy that you would put into coming up with those decisions when you would do that thing. If it's sales calls, and if you know you're going to do them on Monday, and then you get to Monday and it's kind of in the back of your mind and you're thinking through when you should do it and who you should call and things like that, you put all your sales call energy into planning that instead of making the calls. It seems like you don't think of that as necessarily that big of a difference, but over time, 5 days a week, having done that planning ahead of time would make a big difference, it seems like. Yeah. So for yourself 2 months ago or 6 months ago or whenever you kind of started on this direction, or for someone else in sales or a similarly unstructured position, what is one first step you would recommend and one warning you would give for along the way, something you didn't expect for along the way?
Yeah, I would say, the thing I would recommend is, I don't know what industry, everybody, there's obviously supplies very broadly, but find other people who have done it. Because that's something that helped me enormously. Because it's one thing to say, okay, I want to calendar my day and have those vague notions of I should be doing these things. But really, if you find other people who have done it well, look for people who have done it well in your same industry. And, almost invariably, people who are at the top of their game, if you come and say, look, I see you're just amazing at this. Can I learn from you? Can I learn a little bit about what you're doing and how you're structuring things and what you're find somebody like that, because I think that will help you to find those activities, because you have to find activities that you believe in. And I say that's probably the biggest thing, is just find an activity that you believe will be productive. Now for me, I believe these would be productive, but I had this big call resistance. It's that fear thing. I regard the wind, I regard the rain, and I don't sow. And so I don't reap. And so find an activity you believe in, because then you can deal with the fear straight on. When you talk about all that energy that goes into when you arrive that day and you haven't really thought it all through, that gives that fear plenty of time to kind of give you reasons not to do. Whereas if you've got it all planned out, it's just the list, and you've said, I'm resolved to do this, you really have no excuses. So find an activity you believe in, and then find people who have done it well, in your profession, who are doing it well, and then just start to build that structure. And then the other thing is understand, the compound effect, that this is almost anything you're going to do, and we're talking again very, very broadly, but I think this is very true. Almost anything you're going to do isn't going to produce immediate results. It compounds, though. It really does, like these podcasts. They compound over time, and the first one you do may be amazing and may be like brilliant and way better than the 20th one you do, but the 20th one's going to have a lot more impact.
Yeah.
Because you've had all that compounding interest and activity. So.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. And anything that you've learned along the way that would have been helpful, or any surprise along the way, or just notes?
You know what I would say, and I'm gonna, this is very sort of provincial to but it's true of many sales. Let's call it sales. All salespeople deal with call reluctance.
Yeah.
The idea of we all know what it feels like to be cold called. We don't want to we don't want to be the dishing that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely say that it just gets easier with practice.
Yeah.
It's I think you do get better at it, but I don't think that's the main reason. You just get more comfortable with it.
Yeah. You
get more comfortable understanding that, no, this is my job, and there are better and worse ways to approach those sorts of things. And so having other people who have done it help you think through, okay, how do you approach someone for this kind of opportunity you're selling, but it gets easier over time. I would say that's one of the things I think and I heard other people say that.
Right.
It didn't help the first time I made the call. The third time I made the call, I still felt awkward and mealy-mouthed. But it definitely, looking back, kind of 2 short months later, I go, you know what? It is easier. I don't have that same level of call reluctance. I still, every day it's like, okay, I don't love this, but I'm learning to love it.
Yeah. So. Cool. That's great. Awesome. Well, that's helpful. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks for listening to Work is Good. If you enjoyed it, share it with someone else, leave a review, and listen next week.